Hello, EEARTS family. How are you guys doing?
Hey there, guys. Hope everybody's doing okay. If you hear any noises, any whining or anything, it's because we're doing a little babysitting with some puppies. Some precious puppies.
And they love and adore their mommy, and she'll be home soon. So just bear with us if you hear any whining.
Yeah, thank you, guys. As we see some familiar names, we have Marla in the house, we have Mark in the house, we have Spartan O Negative, and we have JC627 Uno as well. We have a bunch of different things we're going to talk about today. Picking just things that just hit me as interesting instead of, devoting each one to a separate topic. We're just going to do a little buffet today. And let's just see how the buffet feels. There's a lot of interesting things going on.
I call that like a hodgepodge of information. Hodgepodge. Have you guys heard that word? Everybody's heard that word, right? Hodgepodge. I like it.
Yes.
It's fun. It's a fun word.
Most definitely. So lots of things going on, both earth change wise. Yeah, when you look at what people are talking about, it seems like there's a lot of things that pop up to mind. Obviously, anything connected to the CV issue is up there. We have friends over in Australia. Very disconcerting. One of our good friends, Osboy there, a good family member, he's been separated from his family for how long now? 7 months?
Quite a while.
Something like that. And now they're extending it over there for another year. So, just thinking about that, not getting to see your wife and child for going on, 18 months, something like that, 19 months. It's horrible. But there he is. Osboy's in the house. We were just, talking about you. It's just a horrible situation over there. And from what we're hearing, it is, it just seems like it's one of the more Orwellian countries, and we all are experiencing this. This is a global thing going on, but it just seems like that's one of the countries that's getting impacted the most as far as the real iron fist lockdown.
Right. And, I think their point is to lower people's vibrations, to try to lock us in a lower vibration and keep us under that control. Because as long as we're in a state of fear, we're extremely controllable. And that's one of the worst things that they can do is separate families. And I just had a family member that I had to go pick up from the hospital, and I wasn't even allowed to go up and see them. I wasn't allowed to go see them. And, and then they were alone the whole time they were there because nobody could go see them. And I think that's, just one more tool that they use to lower our vibration. But it's important we can't forget that, because we have to raise our vibration up and hold it there so they can't lock us down.
Yeah, it can be a challenge at times. But we've been working with so many of the arts family out there. Today, with 5 or 6 people today, something like that. And when you hear of people that have, say, something like a chronic disease like fibromyalgia, for instance, and after the session they're doing so much better and getting on track. This is part of the beautiful part of these times, is the energies coming in are increasing our abilities exponentially. It's just going right through the roof. And we are all getting more intuitive, more psychic, and we're more able to manifest. So that's part of all this going on. It's the biggest part. They want to keep things the way they are. They like status quo. Those at the top are living the type of life they want to live, and they want to keep everybody else, under their thumbs. But it's going to crumble, it's going to crumble, and there's a great awakening going on. And yeah, most definitely, as blockchain says, it's total NWO. This is exactly what Papa Bush was talking about when he said, we're going to have it, a new world order, and there's just such a trail of crumbs. It's just so easy for those that have been paying attention to see. And, but at the same time, there's so many other things going on out there too. We have a trickle disclosure going on. It's happening right before our eyes. The whole way the masses perceive of reality is going to change. It's going to shift. And let's jump over here, because a lot of people have been talking about meteors, asteroids, fireballs, September.
A lot. Yeah, we've heard a lot of that. We've gotten it from the guides. As hard as it is to put a timeline on something, they can guesstimate and they can go by a sequence of events. And there's, planetary alignments, there's energies, and many different things saying that we could be looking at asteroids coming in. And we have had some really strange looking ones. We had a family member send us a picture of a one that was like flew through the sky. You could still see the smoke. And we keep seeing them. They keep coming up. The videos seem to be getting just piling up more and more and more. So it makes one curious, what's just around the corner, and what do these elites know that they're absolutely not going to tell us? They're so tight-lipped about, what are they preparing for? What does this whole thing mean? It's just crazy days.
It's wild times. This is the apocalypse, the great unveiling. And so it's a time when we're going to learn a lot of secrets. We're going to learn a lot of truths. There's new truths coming out all the time. I mean, just all the time. One thing after another. If you want to get shocked by headlines, just pull up Drudge and you'll see things that are going to be like, what? It's just, things are just coming out of the woodwork right now. Totally coming out of the woodwork. But, in these times, we have so much that we're getting hit with. It's like you're a little punch struck. There's so much you're getting hit with that in normal times, some of these things you would have been like, that would have been the topic everybody's talking about. But what are you going to talk about? You're going to talk about the wildfires. We're going to talk about the double storms, of which we're going to do an update on during this. Are you going to talk about, there's a lot of signs of ominous big earthquakes that will be probably coming soon. There's so much to talk about. There's so much going on. It's just a barrage of things happening at one time. So this was a meteor that fell into the sea, and this is over between Evia and Aegina, and this is in Greece. Now, a meteor or a shooting star, I don't know. Some of these things, I think some of these things don't really feel like they're meteors. Some of them feel more like they might be ships, and of course, there's more and more space junk up there all the time. Now we got the Starlink satellites up there. We have, thousands and thousands of satellites. Elon Musk wants to just, turn the night sky into one big billboard.
He does, which is really, really sad, and I wonder if part of that, what they're doing there, is to try to cover up the real thing that's happening as far as us seeing ETs in the sky and UFOs and stuff like that. Well, it's easy to control it if they say, well, there's legitimately something up there. It's just the Starlink satellite, instead of having to really face disclosure head on. It's just insane to think that we're alone. And, I hold that mindset now, but I vaguely remember a time in my life where I really did think we were alone. And I was talking to a family member today, and they were saying, yeah, I still talk to people that still believe that human beings are the we're the only ones on the planet. It's hard for me to reach back and fathom that I felt that way once too. So our job is really important, that we wake people up so that they're not shocked when they do learn the truth. And I want everybody to know the truth. I want everybody to have that ability to think for themselves and have their mind free.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. Lots of interesting comments out there. As Jessica was saying, it's time for us all to level up. We have to do the inner work, which, we have been prioritizing. It can be challenging because, there's just so much going on all the time. But you have to do it. You got to do the inner work. As I was saying, we had like 5 or 6 people today, and I felt maybe a little bit off this morning, still a little bit, just not sick, but just energetically off, like just from the constant barrage of things. But I mean, after starting to get into the meditative state and sending energy, I just felt fabulous after. Fabulous. So good. And so we got to take the time to do that and work on ourselves. And, here, this is just one of so many different things that we've seen. Now, this is from Milky Way astronomers. Meteor briefly lights up the world like daytime as it passes overhead. I don't know where that is. I didn't see any location given. But that is sure cool. Like, watch this, guys. Wow. I think, there's stuff out there for sure. I've always felt like if Nibiru really is out there, I think it's more of a mothership. And it could still be a planet, but it could be a planet that is being, basically used as a ship, moved intelligently. Think about it, when we look at the Kardashev scale and talking about different levels of civilizations. What if some of these extraterrestrial, interdimensional beings are millions of years ahead of us? Because they could be. They would obviously appear as a god, with their technology and abilities. So who knows if they couldn't move, their planet anywhere they wanted to. And here we see from The Verge, sorry to inform you that an asteroid will not be taking out the Earth right before Election Day. It might actually hit us, is the truth. Although it's only like 6.5 feet in diameter. So this thing, the scientists say, don't worry, because if it comes into the atmosphere on November 2nd, Election Day is November 3rd, it's just going to burn up more than likely. But it's interesting, though, the timing. Is that not interesting? Because the guides had said, what did they say, Cindy? You don't remember?
No, I never remember.
She doesn't remember. They were just saying that, there is a high probability that there won't really be an election. Right. So, and that was a while ago, that they had said that. And of course, we've had all the things coming out of both sides about, President Trump was just saying, we're not going to know the results on the 3rd. We might not know the results by the end of the year. Who knows if we'll ever know the results? I think that's how he worded it, something like that. And we've seen the same thing from the Democrats too. And it's just, we've been so set up for, just get ready for whatever's going to come, because there ain't going to be anything that's super clear cut. And then you were getting info too that about President Trump, perhaps it looking like he's no longer with us or something along those lines. Appearing, not that he is actually gone, but it appears like maybe he's not with us anymore. And that there could be somebody else, not President Trump, not Vice President Pence, not Biden, not Harris, but somebody else that might end up taking charge.
Somebody that I've never seen before. They've given me a picture, and we've gone through all kinds of pictures. It's like somebody in a military uniform and hat, and it's just kind of a square face and glasses. And I haven't found an exact match, and we've looked all over the place. We've even looked through those people that run FEMA, thinking maybe it's one of the FEMA directors. And there was one that looked similar, but not an exact match to the picture that they keep showing me in my face. And everything's going to happen so fast. And what they've done is they've gone through and they put all these laws in place already, so that when something does happen, when things do hit the fan, they can usher in this whole barrage of rules and regulations and laws that we're not going to recognize. It's going to be completely unrecognizable. So who's going to be running the country is, anybody's guess, except for I wish I had a name to that picture I see in my head.
So it has a 0.41% chance of crossing paths with the Earth and entering our atmosphere. But at 6.5 feet across, there's satellites that enter that burn up that are bigger. So we shouldn't worry about it. But like everybody is saying now, I understand it's 2020, the year of just anything. You name it, anything. And we see, another asteroid, another small one, 10 to 20 feet across, made the closest approach to Earth ever recorded by a known near-Earth asteroid just on this August 16th, coming within 1,830 miles. Now, that one was also small enough that it should have burned up in the atmosphere, but they didn't spot it till 6 hours after it passed. Good job, never a straight answer. That's what the billions of dollars are going for? Yeah, sure. Cutting it close. Now, this is out of RT, and they always kind of sensationalize. 3 asteroids inbound this week were only spotted this month. That's something coming from never a straight answer either. So the near constant bombardment of space rocks buzzing our planet continues, with planetary defenses alerted to a trio of asteroids measuring over 25 meters in diameter en route to Earth's backyard this week. So, 75 feet or greater, then, there's a better chance that something like that coming and actually making a hole somewhere, if it did. But when we look at the distances, they're still pretty far away. Because, a lunar distance is really the measure that we want to look at. And we don't want to look at AUs, astronomical units, the distance from the Earth to the sun, which is many tens of millions of miles. So a lunar distance is different. And I forget off the top of my head, but I want to say like 239,000 miles. Let me look it up real quick.
Yeah, I'm not sure what with all the lunar distances and stuff like that. I don't know how to calculate that stuff. I just know it's a really, really, really long ways away. So, but yeah, I mean, there's enough hints and clues to these asteroids. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I was close. 238,900, so 239 basically. Now that's what we want to keep an eye on, because we will get 80 or 90, maybe around there a year that are within a LD, a lunar distance. So what we have here is we have asteroid 2020 PP3. It's 34 meters wide. It's going to pass us at a distance of 6.1 million kilometers, 3.7 million miles. So that's more than 10 times the distance of the moon away. So, that should not be an issue. Doesn't mean that there's something else that they didn't see that it will be an issue. It was only spotted 13 days ago. It'll be followed shortly afterwards by 2020 PJ6, 26 meters wide, a distance of 5.3 million kilometers, which was spotted 4 days later. Now, remember our good friend Steve Banoon over at Israeli News Live. He's been talking about September impacts for a long time, I think. And he's got multiple sources that tell him they know something is going to hit. Now, that's what he has gotten. And, of course, one of his sources is a government insider. Next up on Wednesday, asteroid 2020 FF3, measuring 25 meters in diameter, will come far closer, though maintaining a safe distance of 2.4 million kilometers. This one was only spotted on the 14th. Punctuating the midweek are 2 smaller asteroids, 2016 AH164, that's only 3.9 meters, and 2020 QQ2, 15 meters, which will pass at a distance of 6 million and 3.2 million kilometers on Wednesday and Thursday, respectively. So quite a smorgasbord of rocks or whatever they are coming by. There was, which one was it? It wasn't the Battle of L.A. There was one of those sci-fi movies where it looks like the Earth is getting hit by asteroids, and they're just coming down all over, and then it's just kind of calm. And then all of a sudden, ships come up where the asteroids came down.
That sounds really exciting. Yeah, I mean, there's so much that could happen. I remember there was like a movie coming out. Also, I forgot exactly which day, but it's due out really, really soon. And it talks about that too. So maybe a little bit of predictive programming there.
So to put danger in context, the Chelyabinsk meteor, you guys remember that one? That was that daylight big flash that exploded above Russia back in February 2013. It was 18 meters in diameter. It was quite a blast. So it doesn't take too much as far as a meteorite coming in to cause a vast amount of destruction. So meanwhile, the recently discovered 2020 PG6 is expected to hit the Earth on August 31st, 2029. So that's when they expect that's going to actually hit us. Of course, that's still, 9 years away. Hopefully we'll have better tech, right? I think they have technology that's 100 or 200 years more advanced than us easily right now than what they show us. So I would think that they could probably knock it out if that was the case, or ask their little gray friends to do it for them. Now that one's 14 meters in diameter. So, we must remain vigilant is what they are telling us. So they actually have one that they say is going to hit us August 31st, 2029. So, interesting. Meanwhile, another asteroid known as 2018 VP1 stole all the headlines the last couple days, having been billed as the Election Day asteroid, as it's estimated to come within 4,994 kilometers on November 2nd. But again, as we said, it's too small. So, interesting, though. It's very interesting. And, tell me what you guys... To me, this looks like space junk, I'm thinking, coming in.
Yeah, it feels like technology of some kind, space junk, and I wasn't getting too much information on it. And right, when I don't get information on something, I feel like it might be cloaked. So I don't know if this was possibly something that was cloaked. It's no longer. Now you can see it, but yeah, it was an interesting energy I got off this.
I'm wondering if that's either, satellite coming in, booster rockets or something like that, splitting off, like maybe a Russian launch or somebody else's launch. That looks much more like, I'm thinking booster rockets, kind of. I mean, that's what it seems to feel like to me. Certainly causing a lot of fire there. So, hopping over to what's going on with the wildfire situation. National Guard and U.S. military are helping to fight the California fires. And, don't forget there's other ones out there as well. There's pretty good sized ones in Colorado. But the ones in California are massive, burned, hundreds of homes, and spurred evacuation of tens of thousands of people during this whole pandemic that's going on. It's just amazing. Just think about this, too. I mean, think about the symbolism. The whole thing that started the riots, you remember the knee on the neck and the I can't breathe, and then now we're all masked. And I was in the store the other day, and, honestly, we were in a bigger city passing through, and I couldn't stand the energy. It just felt horrible, and I wonder if it's the FIVE. I wonder if it's just the energy that's being given off right now. But I couldn't wait to get out of there and get back into, rural lands. But it was hitting me because I'm watching these people, and they're coming in, they're doing their 8-hour shifts, and their faces are covered. Think about that, 8 hours, especially if you're lifting and doing heavy work. Can't be good to keep breathing in the stuff that you're breathing out and your body wants to get rid of.
Yeah, your body wants that stuff out. And, so many things point to the deliberate nature of the things that they're doing to keep our vibration low, keep us sad, keep us at home, keep us worried, distressed, keep us in fear. It's all has a purpose, and there's just so many people going along with it that aren't pushing back at all. They're just, I read on Facebook sometimes where someone will say, well, if my wearing a mask saves another life, it's worth it then. When in reality, it's all to keep our vibration low. And that's pretty much the bottom line, so they can keep us controlled and make sure our mouth is covered. That's very telling too.
Well, just the fact that it's okay to put a kerchief over your mouth, a bandana, that doesn't do anything. There was this kid that was, he inhaled a vape and then exhaled a vape on Twitter, and you could see all the smoke coming out from within the mask itself. It was just a total joke. But this is the year of we can't breathe, and think about all the stuff that's up in the air right now, not just in California. It's reaching our brother Mark in Kansas. That smoke is covering the entire West, and these are record-setting fires. It's second and third largest fires in California history, and even right now they're still expected to grow. They're going to get bigger. That's a very, very sad situation. We're losing beautiful redwood forests that were, so old, so rich, just, one of the most beautiful sights you're going to see on this planet, and they're going up in flames. It's just, it's a horrible thing that's going on. 1.4 million acres have burned in California so far this year, compared to 56,000 last year. This has gone through the roof.
It has, and I remember it was last year, or was it the year before? But well, anyway, it's in the recent past where there was vehicles that were so scorched from what they said was a regular fire that they melted. They melted. How does that happen? Fire only gets X amount degrees hot. So these things looked more like they were probably something that came from lasers, and it could be like some kind of a weapon. So who knows? It's just anybody's guess a little bit.
Yeah, it's just incredible. And so, let's send our prayers to all of our beautiful family members over in California and then the rest of the West as well. May they be protected and kept safe. And may we get some real rain to put out these fires, as the governor has called these fires historic, and they are certainly that. They are most definitely historic. And, as we were talking about so many people being evacuated, it's making for some amazing and unusual skies and sunsets. We took some pictures of some sunsets that were just wild. And, you see this is from 3 hours ago, 10 new fires in the last 24 hours. That's not good. And then, of course, we have all the other situations going. So I found this interesting because, this kind of rings true to me. And I think that I think there's a huge cover-up. Yeah. Huge. And a Titanic cover-up going on. When we're talking about mud fossils, when we're talking about the Titans, we're talking about giants. In history, we have all these legends and myths of giants, anywhere from, maybe 8 to 9 foot tall giants to your 12, 16 foot tall ones to your ones that are like 200-300 feet tall. And that always gets me thinking about Tiamat, thinking about the asteroid belt. It's all fascinating to look at. So, there was a buzz about this 3 years ago, about the fact that Devil's Tower might actually be a tree stump. Can you imagine that? It's okay, guys. They're getting all excited. Can you imagine if Devil's Tower is really just a tree stump? So there's this rumor going around that there's a petrified root system below the tower. And some are saying the Parks Department released a statement saying we have discovered what looks like a giant root system stemming from the base of Devil's Tower. It's been measured at 4 miles deep by 7 miles wide. And that's pretty wild stuff right there. When you really look at it, I could see it. I could see it. It does look like it could be the base of a tree. And then that gets you thinking about mud fossils and everything else like that as well. Fascinating stuff. But of course, as so many things were covered up, if you go back, you could still find all sorts of newspaper articles and clippings and all talking about giants being found all throughout the United States, all throughout, from the middle, like in Ohio, there's, so many mounds that I've driven by that feel really, there's a certain vibration to them. It has a certain energy to it. And there's so many clippings that talked about giants found, even photographs. And then where do they end up? They end up somewhere being confiscated by the Smithsonian. And many people think they ended up being dumped out in the middle of the ocean. So our history is really covered up. And I've told you guys I'm going to try to talk about stuff I talked about a year ago, because there's like new things that came out. And I can't find things. There's like this internet book burning going on right now as things are being removed from Google's database, especially things when it comes down to giants and Mudfossil and things along those lines. So here's a fact check. This is out of Reuters, and it talks about the fact that there's no evidence that anybody ever said that Devil's Tower was originally a giant tree. So they are debunking it out of Reuters. Now, it doesn't really surprise me, because all this stuff really gets heavily debunked and erased.
Quickly too, as quick as they can. I remember reading a whole bunch of information back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, when they would run across these giants, and they would call in the Smithsonian to come and check it out and maybe keep these things, for future generations. But somehow they kept getting boxed up by the Smithsonian, and they kept disappearing.
Yeah, it's just a regular ongoing situation. So, will we ever know? I hope so. I really do. I really, really hope so. That got me thinking about some other things that I was going to show you guys that we had found. This we found out in the desert, and to me, I always saw it as being some sort of giant elephant-like creature that just died on its side. It has an unusual vibe to it. Cindy was even saying, well, almost looks like it could be a hand almost. But it definitely felt like at some point in time this thing was alive. I got that vibe.
And it looks like there's skin draped over it, like something had been rotting there for some time before it was finally made solid. And that's just what I see when I'm looking at it, is drapey skin. It's kind of gross.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of unusual things out in the desert that we've shared with you guys over the years. Now, I'll show you this one. Now, this was an interesting thing. Now, what is this? This is something that was just up in the sky. I've done so many videos, and in the past, I would a lot of times just be talking and filming the sky, and then some of our people would say, hey, take a look at 21 seconds in, between 21 and 23, and then we'd catch something, that was unusual. So I don't know if that was a drone of sorts, perhaps. It's certainly interesting. And when we were over visiting Soul Reviver, we had this happen, and I was doing a video just sitting in his backyard, and this orb comes flying by, and it probably came within a foot of my head. I never saw it, didn't even know it was there. But when we slowed it down at certain portions, you could see it. And I got a series of photos of it just coming in and then, buzzing me and taking right off. Very, very weird stuff. We've had a ton of them over the years. And who's that looking over your shoulder? Can you guys make that out? So this is one of our family members' heads over here. She's sitting down, and she was aware of the entity, and even said that she felt like it was reptilian, but she didn't feel like it was anything negative. So I don't know if you guys could make that out.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like it's just kind of a watcher, something that watches and observes, maybe kind of curious.
There are a lot of different beings around us all the time. All the time. It's not like we're ever really alone. Even, even when we're in the room sleeping, or if you're in the tub, or even if you're using the John, you're never alone. There's all sorts of entities around us, all sorts of beings around us. Life abounds. And there's so many different densities. There's so many different dimensions. It's really a pretty wild thing to realize and understand. All right, and then we'll jump back over here. And we're going to jump over here. Okay, so this is over at Joshua Tree. And we were talking to one of our family members today. And they were saying, you got to check out Joshua Tree because we've been over so close to that area so many times. And yet haven't stopped in yet, so we will. Does that not look like it could be part of a skull?
Yeah, it definitely looks like, like a bone socket, part of that, like a really, really big one too, I'm not sure exactly what part of the body, but I really do see a socket there.
Yeah, we also saw one. I know we did share that one with them about what looked like a dragon's head out in the... We never did? No. Okay, I'm going to have to dig that footage up. That was really wild. We found something out in the desert that really looked like a dragon's skull. It was so wild, and we were staring at it, and we almost walked into a mine shaft. We would have fallen like 300 feet to our deaths because we were so enthralled just staring at this thing that looks like a skull. We didn't even know it, and then it was like we were mesmerized. But thankfully, we didn't fall in, though it almost gave us a heart attack, honestly. And let's see if this one comes up. Tell me you can't see a giant in that. Sure, that's probably just a rock formation. Nothing to see there, but, it's certainly interesting looking. Really think there's something to the whole mud flood thing. I really, really do. So, Tropical Storm Laura wreaks havoc across the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and Puerto Rico. And as we were talking about, tropical storm level rains are enough, winds. It's not the wind, it's the water in these times. The water is deadly.
It is. And it's getting more and more and more, and it makes me wonder, I don't know, could the water be coming from inside of the earth? Because they have found some really, really, really big bodies of water inside the earth that they weren't aware of previously. And then another thing that came to my mind, could it be Mother Earth's water breaking? Could that be possible if she is going to divide or give birth, or who knows? We just don't know. We just see a whole lot of water right now.
Yeah, we definitely do. So at least 11 people dead, more than 1 million without power, from tropical storm Laura, and she is expected to strengthen into hurricane strength. And as right now, Marco has basically dissipated. It's breaking up. So Marco is kind of paving the way for Laura, so to speak. And, this has been a mess. And there's videos here for you guys to see. Just incredible flooding through Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico as well. Landslides. So many areas are getting flooded consistently to just record levels, constant record floods. And you see, roads just completely swept away. This one, it's hard to believe this house is still standing, and maybe it's not now. Incredible flooding. So this is what we're looking at as far as your probable wind strength. So again, Louisiana and Texas, be very aware. Also Mississippi and Alabama, keep your eyes open as Laura heads your way. And so let me just refresh this really quick. So we could see the forecast. So she looks like she's going to hit as a category 2. I have heard some people saying that they're expecting that it might go up to a category 3, a major hurricane. So Marco kind of paving the way, clearing it. It's kind of like the fullback going first and then the running backs coming after. And we're going to really watch this and keep an eye. Right now, the wind's at 60 miles an hour. It's moving towards the west-northwest at 20 miles an hour, so pretty good clip. And the pressure's at 1,001 millibars. But once it gets out over the Gulf and those warm waters, it's going to start to intensify. And, don't forget what we saw with Hurricane Michael. Because, actually, when it was, about the same distance away, it's probably about the same strength. And it ended up becoming a Category 4. And then they even, like, a year later said, you know what, that might have been a Category 5. And you see, this is Marco, all the way down to like 40 mile an hour winds, heading into Louisiana. And so moving at the northwest at 7 miles per hour, 1,008 millibars. Kind of paving the way for Laura there. So we will keep our eyes on that. And looking at, let's see, well, we already kind of talked about that. There's some other visuals on Laura. A lot of damage to Haiti and Cuba as well. A sad situation, so many people losing their houses, their cars, their clothes, their belongings. As we could see, the flooded streets, pretty scary situation there. So we send our love and prayers to everybody down there, and also everybody in the path. You see this lady being helped. This guy's all the way up to his chest over there. There's a lot of videos for you guys to take a look at. This is that video of that house. It's amazing it was still standing. A lot of telephone poles going down. Just a lot of chaos and damage everywhere we look. And it's not just, one spot either. Bangladesh, our brother Asaduzaman, his home country. 1/3 of the country just basically inundated and flooded at a devastating level. It's just incredible.
Mm-hmm. It is. And it just keeps going up and up and up. And it's one of those things where when I think things can't get much worse, then they do. And here we have more than 100,000 livestock animals perish as intense snowstorms hit Patagonia. 70% of flock at risk. Could you imagine that? If this is your livelihood, this is your everything. I do believe that a lot of the earth changes are natural, but I also believe that they are coming in and taking advantage of it and making the earth changes more severe.
Yeah, and this is down in South America, Argentina, Chile. So, extremes. When winter comes, it's brutal. When summer comes, it's brutal. And many people noticed for quite a while that, whatever happened to the beautiful mild springs and the mild falls, because it's like those have just kind of disappeared. We have an on-off switch. It's either on winter and severe, or it's on summer and severe. And here they lost at least 100,000 sheep and 5,000 cattle, and we've seen those losses time and time and time again. So ultimately, a famine of biblical proportions is looming over humanity, and it's not all due to CV. It's due to a lot of things. Of course, CV is just destroying so many businesses, and of course, it's the smaller businesses that are not going to make it through most of the time. The big corporations, isn't it funny how during this whole time period, the biggest of the corporations are doing record levels of business, because everybody else is being wiped out. Everybody else has impositions on them where they can't open up, they can't do this, they can't do that. It's just it's a perfect storm that's going to give us basically one place to shop. Everything it's corporate fascism, guys. Corporate fascism. That's what it is. It's what we're turning into here. You're going to go and shop at the one state-owned, operated place. and so that's what's coming, and it's going, it's coming into effect so fast right now. It'll just blow your mind. So all the data we have, including WFP forecasts that the number of people experiencing malnutrition will grow by 80% by the end of the year. That's David Beasley, Executive Director of the UN World Food Program, WFP, World Food Program. Biblical proportion famine, for sure. And so we got a lot of weird things in the sky, and I'm just going to give you guys a couple of clips of this. There's this orb, which then kind of splits into multiple orbs that then end up taking different formations. So, would you say plasma, Cindy?
It does feel plasma, but it also feels benevolent. It feels like they're good. And, at the same time, it's like some kind of a technology, too, where they know how to pull the life from the air and make something out of it. It's kind of curious.
Oh, that's an interesting thought right there. I think a lot of people might have the ability to see the life force now. So when you're looking around and you notice it's almost like looking at things swimming in the air, little sparkly things. And the life force is all around us. Just makes me wonder about, what else we're going to experience. What other living things will we see? Now, this to me looked like just maybe somebody's drone, or that this was, and this is in Mexico, or fake, but I just thought I'd let you guys take a peek and see what you think, because the shape was really curious. Look at that. Now, these people seem to follow this. They just basically are driving out in the street, seeming to follow this object, which at some point is way up, like up in the clouds there. And you can still make out that really odd shape. And I think you were thinking drone of some sort.
I was thinking just drone, really. It doesn't feel like it's a good energy, though. I don't like that energy one bit. So whether it's one of our drones or a different drone, I'm not sure. I just don't like the energy.
So apparently this thing was just kind of going all over the city, and these people were trying to follow it. 1, 2, it's 6 pointed, and then it's got more points besides that. It almost hit me like a chaos sphere, for those of you that are familiar with that. Very weird. So I just thought I'd get your guys' opinion on what you think that is. That would be an odd-shaped drone, but maybe there is something you could buy that's shaped like that. So, Zoom investigating as eastern U.S. and southern U.K. hit by a wave of outages. Video conferencing platform Zoom is scrambling to get to the bottom of thousands of outage reports, concentrated in eastern U.S. cities and the greater London area. Curious, as schools are starting to do their distance teaching. Thousands of outages. Now, I would be looking for lots of outages. I think there's going to be a lot that are coming just from activity with the sun. But I also think there's going to be a lot coming from, shall we say, different countries, different nation states, probing each other's defenses and just looking to create a pain in the butt for each other.
Yeah, definitely looking to do that, causing a lot of chaos and causing a lot of problems. That's, it seems like they've done this over and over and over, done it so many times. It's not their first rodeo. They know what they're doing. And yeah, I don't know. It's just really frustrating to see how many lives are negatively affected through all of this stuff.
Yeah, I was saying last year, and at the beginning of this year, I was getting the strong impression that we're going to have some major outages before the end of the year, closer to like November and December, I expect to see, and maybe as early as this upcoming month, we'll start seeing more regular outages of pretty much everything. And we just mentioned to a family member, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have a wood burning stove, just in case, because I just feel like we're gonna be in for it soon, as far as the grid going down. And so this was interesting too. Remember 3 Chinese dressed up as protesters during the Antifa BLM riots attacking the White House. So what they were kind of saying is that there's actual infiltration by the PLA, the People's Liberation Army. So are there? Well, we've talked about sleepers, and we do feel that there are sleepers here, and we're getting really close to seeing a lot of things being unleashed. This was interesting, and there's a link there that goes to here, and it talks about the Chinese consulate in Houston, and part of the reasons why it was shut down. A lot of things are tied together here, guys, and this is all part of preparing for whatever will come. And, the 5 quakes over here in North Carolina, it's still rocking and rolling over there by Sparta. That's where they had that one quake that was fairly strong, caught some people by surprise. But again, we're going to be getting a lot of ancient fault lines that are going to be waking up. Oklahoma, we see typical fracking quakes going on, still activity up in Idaho. It looks like there's only a couple up here right at the moment. And, as always, we still have quakes going on, activity in Ridgecrest, activity west of Tonopah, Mono Lake, Mammoth Lake area. Now, one of the things that was interesting as we look at this 6.0, 27.2 kilometers deep, and this is Costa Rica, one of my favorite countries that I haven't been to.
I know, we can hardly wait to go. We are going to go someday. We're going to get there. I feel it in my bones. I can already smell the
smell the coffee.
I can smell the coffee.
Yeah, smell that Costa Rican coffee.
The coffee. Yeah, it's really nice. Sugar.
So it's 6.0 in Costa Rica. And I was looking at these today because these are along the lines where Africa is going to end up splitting and becoming more than one continent here, or we could say it's going to split into, big islands, basically. 5.0 Tanzania and a 5.0 in Burundi.
Yeah, I mean, a whole lot of stuff, shaking going on in different places. And, the one that we had one right on top of the other, that was really concerning me. I didn't know what to think about that one. And I'm not even sure which way it pushed the energy. But with Dutch's work, we learned that it does push the energy here or there. So we have more of an idea how to predict these things, which is an absolute blessing. And we all know that the USBS is always trying to disregard him, but he's done some really incredible work.
And so, again, look at this. This is what they're saying is going to happen. Now, the scientists will tell you this is going to be in so many millions of years. But who knows? Maybe it'll be in 10, 20 years. We don't really know. We know that these catastrophes happen on a much quicker cycle than what they've led us to believe. So when I saw these quakes, it just got me thinking of this whole African rift that is going on. You could see where these are. It's right in that area. And, obviously it's in off the edges of the plate. As you can see where the plates are. So there will be new plates. As this is going to end up fracturing and breaking off. And what's interesting is some of the prophecies say that some of Africa is going to make it through all the Earth changes relatively untouched. And there's going to be tremendous uplift, which would make sense, because if this ends up splitting and one side, starts to go under the other, there will be uplift, so it makes sense. And I don't know which side's going to be the safe side. But it is also, part of the prophecies of these times. So looking at those, that really stood out to me there. So interesting times indeed with the Earth changes. And this could be very, very ominous for Japan. Mysterious stench in Kanagawa Prefecture. Precursor of a large earthquake, seismologist warns. Hey, remember, Casey talks about Japan first, then California. And also he said very first, look for the activity, Pele, Vesuvius. So you got to wonder, it smells like natural gas in the air. And they did not have a chili cook-off in that location.
Maybe they should have to help cover some of that, so they would at least have a reason for the stench. But that's really curious.
Yeah, so 40 emergency calls where people were concerned that there was a natural gas leak, but they didn't find any. So is there a big quake building in Japan? Very, very well could be. So back in 2010, the Christchurch earthquake in New Zealand, and back in 1995 in the Hanshin earthquake in Japan, there was the same reports. So Christchurch was a 7.1, and then the other one was a 7.3. Lots of damage, lots of fatalities, unfortunately. So is the big one about to hit Japan? Well, right now, that's awfully quiet. And I do think Dutch would probably say that's ominously quiet because there's pressure not being released.
Yeah, that's always never a good sign. And from what he's taught us, that, it can just build and build and build. But thank goodness he does know how to give us predictions and updates. So we have that to count on.
Yeah, we will definitely keep an eye on that. So here we have some items when you're stockpiling. 17 survival foods that can last a century, theoretically. Number 1, alcohol. So, as most people know, wine gets better until it gets to that point where it starts tasting like vinegar, But that is one of the things that can last pretty much indefinitely, especially brandy, gin, vodka, whiskey, moonshine, things like that. Now, apple cider vinegar is probably one of the healthiest foods in the world, has tons of health benefits, literally over 100 uses. Baking soda also really won't go bad. Beans, dry beans, almost indefinite shelf life when they're held in airtight containers. Cornstarch as well, you could use it to thicken sauces. Corn syrup, but I don't recommend high fructose corn syrup. And honestly, we just don't really use sweeteners. We'll use some natural honey from time to time, agave perhaps. Yeah, molasses if we're doing, ghee, and it's a form of butter, and ghee doesn't go bad either. And honey, as we were saying, then that would be one of our sweeteners of choice, although, again, the only time I'll use that is maybe in, some sort of baking, like pancakes or something like that. Instant coffee. Sorry, I'm not an instant coffee guy. Maple syrup. Yeah, maple syrup is another natural sweetener. Popcorn as well. And rice. Salt. Recommend pink Himalayan. It's amazing for you. Tastes so good. And it's almost like you cannot make something too salty with pink Himalayan. And soy sauce, sugar, vanilla extract, and white vinegar. So that was a list of 17 things that'll last a long time.
Long time. So those would be really good things to, get stocked up on if you're not already stocked up, and just have some things put back, and maybe even make a little emergency nap somewhere and put it somewhere. A lot of these things too are medicinal, like with the baking soda. Well, if you get the baking soda, I would suggest you stock up on aluminum-free baking soda. You can use that for tons of stuff.
And I didn't see if Sherry was in the chat, but Sherry over in PA brought to mind something, and I've talked to you guys before about, like, the way we make our toothpaste is we use the aluminum-free baking soda with coconut oil, and then we mix in peppermint essential oil, tea tree essential oil, and you could put clove essential oil in there too. And that is so healthy for teeth and gums. It's so healthy for teeth and gums, and it's so cheap. I mean, I bet you we probably, gosh, I don't even know. It costs pennies. I mean, really, it's pennies. I mean, maybe we spend like $2 a year on toothpaste. And honestly, my teeth have felt better since I've done that. And I used to use some of the good ones, like Tom's toothpaste, but then some of Tom's has fluoride in it now. So, fluoride, again, that's going to shut down your pineal gland. It's actually a neurotoxin. The Nazis used it in the concentration camps to keep people docile. Coconut oil. Coconut oil and olive oil are pretty much the only two oils we use. Coconut oil does better at high heat. Olive oil, as is, or up to like medium heat. I'll use sesame for certain recipes when we're cooking, say, Chinese or Japanese. But for the most part, coconut oil and olive oil, they're very, very healthy oils for you. Coconut oil has so many uses for you, too. It's really good. Rosemary's saying add some activated charcoal, too. Yeah, that's a good thought. And no reason to go out and spend, $4 or $5 for a small tube of toothpaste. You could do it yourself and do it better. You really can.
Yeah, you really can. And what I do, I think it's roughly, for ingredients and making it, I do probably a cup of the coconut oil, and then I use maybe a quarter cup to about a quarter cup of the aluminum-free baking soda, and drops to taste, but you can start with like 20, 25, 30, and go up as needed. With the peppermint, though, be careful with that. That can get really strong really fast.
Yeah, most definitely. And Rosemary brings up the flaxseed oil for salads, and Kim says avocado oil is great for high heat too. We do have both of those as well. I just always end up gravitating towards the two. But yeah, all really good ideas. So I want to thank everybody for their support, both here and then also at Ko-Fi, and all our Patreons out there as well. You guys have kept us afloat and kept us making videos in these times. We love you guys. As always, stay safe out there. God bless. And